there's this very specific kind of fatigue setting in with the open source AI community, do I think?
Oh, absolutely. That's the perfect word for it, fatigue.
It's like every single week there's a new press release, a new model that's supposed to be the GPT-4 killer.
And then what happened?
And then it falls down on the most basic stuff. Or it confidently hallucinates a library that just plain doesn't exist.
Right. We've all been burned. So the skepticism is, it's earned.
It is.
And that weariness is, it's completely justified. The market is just saturated with these tiny incremental updates.
Right. 2% better here, 1% there.
Exactly. Models that are maybe 2% better on one specific benchmark. But every now and then a release comes along that you really have to pay attention to.
And not just for the benchmarks.
Not for the benchmarks, no, but because it represents a real strategic shift, an architectural shift in, how we actually build things. And that's what we found in the review we analyzed on the Zhipu AI GLM-4.6V series.
That's the real story here. The analysis suggests this is way more than just another model in the pile. So for this breakdown, our goal is pretty clear. We need to dissect Zhipu's two-model strategy.
And evaluate that killer feature they've built in, the one that cuts out a really clunky middleman.
Yes, and maybe most importantly for everyone listening, we need to get real about the hardware. What VRAM do you actually need? And are these things truly safe for production?
It's a really sophisticated play. They're trying to capture the market from the top and the bottom all at once.
Okay, so let's start right there. Zhipu didn't just drop one model. They gave us two very distinct versions. You have the 106 billion parameter monster and the 9 billion flash version. Why do that? It feels like they're aiming at two totally different universes.
They absolutely are. And it's a deliberate strategy. They want to capture the cloud enterprise segment on one side and the low latency consumer side on the other.
So let's start with the big one.
Right, the flagship. GLM 4.6V, 106 billion parameters. The key thing to understand here is that this is not a traditional dense model. It's a mixture of experts and a MoE.
Okay, so for anyone new to MoE, that means it's not actually firing up all 106 billion parameters for every single token it generates, right?
Precisely. It's smarter than that. There's a routing mechanism that takes the input, your prompt, your image, and sends it to specific expert subnetworks.
So you get the benefit of that huge knowledge base.
All 106 billion parameters worth of knowledge. But the computational cost, the inference cost, is way lower than a dense model of the same size.
Which is why it's aimed at cloud clusters and big enterprise jobs.
Exactly, where cost efficiency at a massive scale is everything.
That really does sound like a silver bullet. Massive power, lower cost. But in AI, there is always a trade-off. Is there a known weakness to the MoE approach we should be watching for?
That's a great question. The usual trade-off is consistency, especially on really unusual or long-tail inputs. Because the model is routing the data, there's a small chance a very rare input gets misrouted. That could lead to a slightly less predictable result compared to a dense model.
But for general use?
For the general enterprise use cases Zhipu is targeting, the cost benefits are they're too good to ignore.
Okay, so that's the heavy lifter. On the other end of the spectrum, you have the GLM-4.6V-Flash. 9 billion parameters. And the review we read warned us not to mistake Flash for being just some small quantized toy.
And that's a critical distinction. The 9B Flash model is a traditional dense model, not a MoE. It's been specifically trained for one thing: speed, throughput, and super low latency.
So this is for your desktop assistant.
Your desktop assistant, your browser extension, any local agent that needs to feel instant, snappy. It trades some of that massive knowledge for pure speed.
And connecting both of these models, despite the different architectures, is one really crucial spec, that massive 128,000 token context window. What does that kind of memory actually mean when you're throwing images and text at it?
That 128K context it's vital. A huge pain point with older multimodal models was their tiny memory. You'd give them a few images and a bit of text, and they just lose coherence.
They'd forget what the first image was about.
Exactly. With 128K, you can feed these models genuinely complex, long sequences. We're talking about analyzing an hour-long video with keyframes or, 150 pages of financial reports with charts and graphs.
All in a single go?
In one pass, without the model losing the thread.
That is a huge leap in efficiency. But doesn't a huge context window usually mean a huge hit to performance? Did the analysis mention any latency trade-offs?
It did, and of course running at full context is slower than a short prompt. But Zhipu seems to have really optimized their attention mechanisms for this. The architecture is just built to handle long visual sequences better than its rivals. The fact that even the little 9B Flash model has that 128K window tells you everything.
They see it as essential.
It's non-negotiable for them, even for the consumer model.
All right, let's move on to what I think is the most important part of this whole analysis. If you remember just one thing, it should be this: native multimodal function calling.
This really is the killer feature. It's a game changer because it fixes a problem in agent design that has been, frankly, brittle for years.
So let's break down the old way of doing things.
Okay, so imagine you have an agent. Its job is to look at a line graph in an image and fix an issue. The old way was incredibly lossy.
How so?
Well, first, you had to use an OCR, tool optical character recognition, to turn the image into text. Raw numbers, descriptions.
Yeah.
Then you feed that text to the LLM. The LLM reads the text and then decides to call a tool, like a calculator. The whole process was vision to text to tool.
And what's the weakness in that middle text step?
You lose so much crucial context. You lose spatial information where things are on the chart. You lose color. If one chart has a faint red border indicating danger, the OCR might miss it.
So the LLM gets identical text for two visually different situations.
Exactly. GLM-4.6V just skips that step. It maps what it sees directly to an action. The process is now just vision to tool.
That's a massive leap in robustness. Can you give a practical example? Say I show it a live server dashboard.
Perfect example. On that dashboard, a status light turns bright red. An older model needs OCR to read the word error next to the light.
Oh, I had to describe it in the prompt.
Right. But GLM 4.6V just sees the red pixels. It understands the semantic meaning of danger in that UI, and it can immediately trigger a server restart function. No text needed.
It's acted on perception, not transcription.
And it works in reverse, too, which is huge for self-correction.
Mm-hmm.
If a tool returns a result as an image, like a new graph, the model doesn't need the raw data behind it. It just looks at the graph, understands it visually, and decides its next step, just like a human would.
That is an incredible level of agent capability. But we have to talk benchmarks. It's the AI world after all. Zhipu is positioning this against the current open-weight vision king, Qwen2-VL. So how does it actually stack up based on the data?
Okay, so if we look at general vision, just pure perception, the big 106B model does edge out the Qwen2-VL72B. For instance, in general VQA, that's visual question answering GLM, gets an 88.8% to Qwen's 84.3%. So for basic what is in this image tasks, Zhipu's model is better.
Okay, so it's a better perceiver, but where does that vision to tool power really show up in the numbers, I assume in the agentic tasks?
And that's where the difference is just. It's dramatic. The key benchmark here is Web Voyager. It tests an agent's ability to browse the web to complete a goal.
So clicking buttons, filling out forms.
Exactly. And on that, the 106B model scores an 81.0. Qwen scores 47.7.
Wow, that's not a small gap, that's a canyon. Why is it so much better on that specific task?
It all comes back to vision to tool. Web Voyager is all about interacting with a visual UI. GLM 4.6V isn't waiting for an OCR to tell it what a button says. It sees the button and acts.
So it's a much cleaner, faster interaction loop.
Much faster. And even the little 9B Flash model scores a 71.8 on that benchmark, which tells you this architecture was built from the ground up for this kind of interactive agentic work.
But the analysis did highlight some nuance. Qwen isn't totally beaten, especially when you look at the smaller models.
That's right. If you look at a different benchmark, MMMU Pro, which is all about complex multi-step reasoning,
Okay.
the smaller Qwen2-VL7B actually scores higher than the GLM-4.6V-Flash 9B. We're talking 69.4% versus 60.6%.
So what does that suggest?
It suggests that while GLM is amazing at perception and action, Qwen might still have a slight edge in pure, complex logical deduction on smaller models. It's a different training focus.
Which just proves that we're moving into a world of specialized tools, which is great. Speaking of tools, let's get into hardware. A lot of our listeners want to run these things locally. So what's the reality? What are the VRAM requirements?
Okay, let's set some realistic expectations here. For the 9B Flash model, the more consumer-friendly one,
Right.
to run it at full BF16 precision, you're going to need about 18 to 20 gigs of VRAM. So an RTX 3090, a 4090, that's the entry point right now.
Which is still a pretty high bar for a lot of people.
It is, but, and this is the key part for accessibility, Once this model gets properly quantized into formats like GGUF,
For Llama.cpp and LM.
exactly, the VRAM requirement should drop to around 6 to 8 gigabytes, and that suddenly opens the door to an RTX 3060, a 4060, even powerful laptops. That's the real game changer for local use.
Okay, now give us the reality check on the 106B monster.
Yeah, that one lives in the data center. At BF16, you're looking at over 200 gigabytes of VRAM.
So multiple A100s.
3 A100s, yeah. Even with FP8 compression, you still need about 110 to 120 gigs. So a dual A100 setup minimum. This is not a hobbyist model.
It's an API or a cloud instance for pretty much everyone.
Hmm.
So what's the current deployment status for the open source community?
For a big production setup, the go-to path is VLLM, which already has FP8 support for the 106B model. For the Llama.cpp and a Llama crowd, support is actively being worked on. There's a pull request, number 16600, you can track, but the vision support isn't fully merged yet.
So for now, local users just need to be a little patient.
A little patient, yes.
Yeah.
The GGUF quants will come, and the community is definitely on it.
All right, let's pivot from hardware to the business side, dollars and cents. What specific application did Zhipu really optimize this for?
Well, they've been very clear about this. They targeted what they call front-end replication and visual interaction.
So an AI that builds websites from pictures.
Essentially, yes, the ultimate front-end AI generator. They're trying to automate that whole, often tedious process of turning a static design into working code.
Walk us through that workflow. It sounds like a huge time saver.
It really is. Imagine you get a Figma design, or even just a screenshot of an old website you need to rebuild. You upload that image. The model analyzes the layout, identifies all the components, figures out the color scheme, and spits out clean HTML and CSS.
Okay, that's impressive.
But the really cool part is the interactive layer. After it generates the code, you can just circle an area on the screen and say, make this button darker and move it left.
And it understands that visual instruction and modifies the code.
Immediately, it cuts a multi-day design-to-code sprint down to maybe an afternoon.
That's a massive workflow accelerator.
Yeah.
Now let's talk pricing, because this seems to be their most aggressive move.
This is a pure race-to-the-bottom play to grab market share. The headline news is the GLM-4.6V-Flash 9B API. It's free.
Free for input, output, everything.
Free for input, output, and cache tokens. It's a clear move to get every developer experimenting with their vision-to-tool agents without any financial risk.
They're trying to get everyone hooked on their ecosystem.
Absolutely. And even the big 106B model is priced super aggressively.
Compared to GPT-4o.
Oh, yeah. At 30 cents per million input tokens, it's significantly cheaper. When you pair that price with the 128K context window, it makes things like processing thousands of invoices a day actually economically viable for a lot of businesses.
The value proposition is very strong. But we need the full picture. Zhipu clearly focused on vision and agents. So where did the testing reveal the cracks? What are the limitations?
Transparency is key here. There are a few main areas to be cautious. First is coding performance. It's a tale of two different skills. For visual, coding UI, CSS, front-end stuff, it's top tier, a fantastic UI assistant.
Right.
But for back-end logic, for complex algorithms, you need to be careful. It can sometimes hallucinate variable names or even duplicate entire classes when you push the context window really hard. It still needs heavy human supervision for that stuff.
So great for the look and feel, less reliable for the core logic. What's next?
It's pure text QA.
Yeah.
It's weaker than specialized text-only models.
Because they focused all their training on the vision side.
Precisely. All that alignment effort went into multimodal use, so its ability to answer a really nuanced question about, say, philosophy or literature without any visual input is just not as strong. Think of it as a vision model first, text model second.
And what was that final quirk? Something about an overthinking loop.
Yeah, this happens with a lot of powerful models, but it's something to watch. Sometimes, in an attempt to be thorough, it gets stuck in a loop. It'll restate answers, repeat its reasoning steps over and over. It adds latency, and it burns tokens. Not a huge deal on the free API, but it's a performance drag.
And some fundamental vision limits are still there, right?
Yes. Object counting. It's still a struggle for all MLLMs. If you ask it to count 47 marbles in a jar, you'll get a very confident but probably very wrong answer.
Okay, so let's synthesize all of this. What's the final takeaway for the listener? Who should be looking to switch to this right now?
I think we're seeing this really healthy fragmentation of the model market. You don't need one model for everything anymore. So if you're a local user, you should absolutely be getting ready to download the 9B Flash model as soon as those GGUF quants drop. Its speed and agentic abilities will likely make it the new default local vision model.
And for developers and enterprise.
If you're an agent developer, that native multimodal function calling is just the paradigm shift. The free API means you can experiment with no risk. And for enterprise, if you're doing heavy document processing, the 106B model is a seriously compelling, cost-effective alternative to GPT-4o, especially with that massive context window.
It all comes down to efficiency. It cuts out the OCR middleman, it speeds up prototyping, and it's priced to move. It's built for practical application.
Right. And the really big idea here, the provocative thought, is what this shift from text to tool to vision to tool really means. The next wave of AI agents won't just read your screen, they will perceive it. So think about what becomes possible when your AI can react instantly to a visual cue, a loading bar finishing, a warning light blinking on a security camera feed, an urgent pop-up on a screen, all without needing text. That's where this is going. True, visually reactive autonomous AI.